So we have a wonderful speaker today that I am very proud to introduce. We've been friends for many years. And it's Dr. Karen Johnson. And Dr. Johnson is the Associate Chair of Psychiatry and Director of the Psychiatry Consult Liaison Services here at MedStar Washington Hospital Center. She holds a faculty appointment of Professor of Psychiatry at Georgetown University School of Medicine. She joined our wonderful MedStar system about a decade ago when she relocated from Los Angeles after her tenure at UCLA. Teaching is her passion, for which she has won many awards over the years, from Emory, from UCLA, King Drew Medical Center. Actually, in 2012, the nurses here at MedStar Washington Hospital Center bestowed upon her the award, the Nurses' Choice Award for Physician Collaboration. And that same year, she actually won the John Lynch Moral Courage Award. So I am pleased, proud, delighted to introduce to you our wonderful speaker, Dr. Karen Johnson.
Thank you very much, Tanya. I am only going to use this for brief moments because those of you who know me know that I tend to walk around a lot. I actually want to thank you guys for inviting me to do this as we celebrate a wonderful group of staff and associate here at Washington Hospital Center, our dear nurses. But aside from that, I'll take a minute to be a little bit on the selfish side and really, truly from the bottom of my heart, thank you for all that you do for those patients who come here not only with medical problems, but who have the extra burden of having a psychiatric condition or a developmental disability. Because with them, we need to have special skills, good communication, and go above and beyond the simple nursing care, which probably is never simple, that you guys do. So thank you very much, and give yourself a round of applause. Today, oh boy, sorry. Can you hear me? There you go. Today we're going to look at the fact that you guys come every day to work with your hearts filled and a lot of enthusiasm to do the work that you deliver care here at Hospital Center. The objectives, even though this is not necessarily an evidence base all the way, because we're used to having a lot of evidence base. The evidence is you, and it's based on your life. So that's where we'll get the evidence base as you see this. I hope that at the end, you'll be able to understand the impact that having a nursing career has on individuals, as yourself, at different stages of your professional development. Because I'm sure that within this group, we have interns who just the other day came out of nursing school, and we have folks who are with their hands above, looking, counting their retirement days. Comprehend the importance of balancing time management and life priorities, and be able to identify the signs of burnout and stress and ways to implement protective measures for self-preservation. So you may come from all walks of life in the nursing profession, whether you're in the emergency room, in the operating room, the ICU. Some folks may say one area is more stressful than the other, and I think that it is basically the degree of demand of the needs that the patient have that would cause the stress. For some people, it seems like it's not stressful, but it's because they hide it very well, and then somebody else probably deals with their stress. We'll talk about that too. So this is what we have, and it's almost the same thing. I wish I could have found more pictures because the nursing staff here at Hospital Center is quite diverse. I'm sure if we had a world map here, there are people who come from all over the world, folks who come from all over the nation, people who speak lots of languages, folks who are couples of different nature, interracial marriages, everything that you want. we all bring that to work. We can't leave that at home. This is who we are, and when you guys come to work, this is what you bring to the workplace. So we'll divide it in sections. The first section, of course, work life. And if you think, well, what does work have to do with it? It has to do a lot with everything. So we'll look at schedules, which is important. We all deal with schedules in our life, schedules at work. Whenever I talk about schedules, I like to remind folks of flexibility, because nothing stays the way it is. So you've left home, you're quite excited. I'll pick on 2C, because that's where I am most of the time, or 2D, or 3F, wherever. And you coming, plan, this is what I'm going to be doing when I get to work, and then you get to work and your nursing director tells you that 2 people called in sick and that the clerk isn't coming. Well, there goes all the planning that you might have had for a wonderful day. It would still be wonderful, but it would take a lot of flexibility and collaboration amongst those of you who are physically there. So your schedule is a big role player in this. Patient care and teamwork, that's actually what we strive for, but it has to be team. And I think that sometimes we may think that the team is the nursing team taking care of something and the social worker team and the doctor's team. Is actually one huge team. So if the physician can assist with putting the chart back together and making sure that they all have labels, oops, talking about myself, obsessive about making sure every page has a label and a name tag, then that's one thing. But the team is about anything. You go in to see a patient and the patient looks like they're crashing or something is going on. It may not be your patient, but you may be the one first on the scene. You're walking down the hallway trying to get to lunch and desperate for that, but you hear a patient say, "Nurse, can you help me?" And instead of thinking, "That's not my patient, I'll call for the nurse to come," you actually turn around and see what you can do, and maybe lunch will be delayed by 5 or 10 minutes, but that's actually your teamwork. We focus a lot on training and certification, your work environment, institutional requirements, and all of these things we're going to go over, because in the end, these are all the things that you guys are working day to day to balance to make your life a good life. So the schedules, we talk about that, considering the uneventful events, personal or family emergencies. I'm sure it's happened to anyone who has a child here. It doesn't matter if it's a toddler or a 14-year-old. You've had an impact of, "Mom, I forgot my homework. It's on the kitchen table. Can you get it?" You're on your way. You're all stressed about that. Or you have on your little blue uniform and it's all neat. You pick up that beautiful baby you have to say goodbye to, and they decide to pick on you. And you've got to be creative and figure out, do I change now or do I make it to the hospital and change myself when I get there? It is part of all of that happen in the day. So family and personal emergencies should be accounted for. If you have a partner or a spouse who travels a lot, who also has schedules that to be juggled, always keep in mind putting things in the list. I can tell you that I learned from Sue, she's in here, from Sue Eckert, who would come and do all of those emergency preparedness for us many years ago. And even though I came from UCLA and thought I was very prepared for earthquakes, never thought about preparing for snow. So you come here and the preparation isn't only how you're going to get to work or what you're going to do, but actually who's going to be taking care of your kids or your elderly parents or your pets or whatever it is that you have. So all of these things are things you need to have in place. Vacations, always important. I am not sure I quite agree with folks working for 10 years and they can brag that they have about 100 days vacation accumulated. You're not living. Accumulating the vacation days for what? Actually, is that important to enjoy, refresh yourself, and be prepared to come back to work. I know there's always struggles preparing vacations for holidays and how things can work, but there comes the teamwork again. So you team up with folks who work in different areas. So I'll work Ramadan if you work Easter, I'll work Christmas if you work for my anniversary, I'll cover this, but all of these things can only be accomplished if you're talking with each other and talking with your managers, and then you can afford to figure out a way to include your vacation there. Weather and disasters, we can't prevent them. You guys can remember we've had snowstorms, we had the train crash several years ago, and just before I came here, you had the unfortunate events of 9/11. Those are things that occur, and as long as we continue, and we hope we will always will be the center that folks come to for all of their care, we have to be prepared for these things. So work-life, caseload. Sometimes someone may think, well, she only has 2 cases and I have 4, or her cases are tougher. He has a different break than me. In the end, it all comes out to be together. We never prepared for rapid responses. There's sometimes I'm walking the halls in the hospitals and I'm thinking, how many rapid responses can we have? So you hear the rapid responses, you hear that the chopper, it's on its way, you hear that there's a code yellow arriving at certain time, that there's a code heart headed to the 4th floor, and it's all of us doing it. It's not only the person who's in the ED, but the person who's in the cath lab is the nurse who's going to receive the person. So it's a strain of teamwork that's occurring. Difficult personalities, everybody has a personality in this room, myself included. What happens is that one day the personality is a little bit better than another day. But we all have personalities. Now, we hope that what we don't have is personality disorders. So when folks tell me, oh, you know her, she has such a tough personality, and I always joke and say, as long as it's not a personality disorder, we're good to go. So everybody has a personality, just in case you didn't know that you had one. Mental illness is going to be part of the team, whether it's a coworker and you're not aware of it, who's under a lot of stress or may have history of depression, just like someone who may have diabetes on the team, behavioral problems, and dealing with the dying patients. And I know that sometimes, especially for the very young nurses, that can take a toll at the beginning of your career, having to face the fact that you lost a patient, dealing with whether it's my fault, was it something that I overlooked, did I miss something in the chart from the day before. I can tell you that there are nurses throughout the hospital who sometimes might get a phone call from me 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning. As a matter of fact, a nurse on 2L got a call from me on Monday to Tuesday, around 2 in the morning because of a patient that we transferred from a medical floor, and I was concerned of whether or not we had actually made it clear of certain specific things the patients need. So we all carry these things where we're worried about the patients that we provide care for. Difficult coworkers, those are going to exist. Not everybody nice and smiling and doing everything. There are a lot of people who are very cut and dry. They come to do their work and they could care less if you have kids, don't have kids, or what happened. Just come here, do your work, and go about your business. That's good too. And eventually you can turn that person around because they might have had previous experiences at other facilities, and now they're getting to know the place where they're working at this time. Collaborating with everyone. So I know that you guys sometimes have a tough day juggling when someone needs to go to a procedure, but we're a trauma center, so your patients got bumped because there are a lot of patients in the trauma ED and you don't have any control over that. The family members are upset because I came here because you told me they were going to have the CT scan and they're not having it. So all of these things are places where, as long as you guys are aware of what's going on and you're communicating with each other and communicating with the patient and their family, it can bring the stress level down a little. Not always control everything, but it can bring it quite down from the levels. Training and certification, I always tell folks, and you guys have heard me say this before, that you are actually your own entity. So if you take the employment, and yes, you're going to stay at hospital center for the rest of your career, we hope, it doesn't necessarily mean that you can't stay on top of what your professional goals are. You can stay here for 20, 25 years, and you may have different professional goals. Not everyone aspires to be in leadership or management, but you may aspire to be better teachers, to have better patient care, to whatever it is that you want to do. Keep in mind that you should always stay on top of your professional career because it's always a contributing factor. So today is May 7th. You guys literally have a month and 3 days to complete all the Cytel training, right? So if you start checking them off and getting them off the list, You would not be seeing your name on those embarrassing emails to the manager saying, so-and-so and so-and-so hasn't completed the Cytel, one check off. So you have 37 days to do your Cytel training. Ongoing training, institutional requirements, and mandatory things is not that the leaders one day wake up and took their hot curlers or their blow dryers out and decided, oh, let's go to the hospital center and start. It's usually a governing body that's outside that's directing our path, the same way it was at school, the same way you guys do this at home. Because trust me, if you're talking bad about your nursing leadership here or the physician leadership or anywhere, your children are talking about you on this playground. So just keep that in mind. Can you believe my mother said I had to clean my room before I could go to the movies? Well, that's the same way. Can you believe they said I had to clean the medication room before I leave from the shift? So institutional and required mandatory things, they're not because we think them up, mandated outside agencies and promotion. And it may not necessarily that you're looking for a promotion here, but if you have your CV together, your training together, if there's an opportunity within the MedStar system, it will be there. That's the only system I'm recommending. So if you're looking for promotion, look for the promotion within the MedStar system. Thank you. So if you're looking at your work life, there's always things with the nursing station. The nursing stations can be stressful. The telephone ringing, the doctors bugging, the family members. I always joke with the nurses and say, had I been a nurse, the only shift I would work would be 11 to 7. No doctors, no medical students, residents, no family members during visiting hours, no anything. Me, the patient, and the chart, and preparing everything for the next day. But I'm not a nurse, and you guys all can't work 11 to 7. So you do the best that you can managing the nursing station. Now we have the mobile stations that we call WOW, because we can't call COW. I'll remain politically correct, which were their first names. Meeting rooms, break rooms, cafeteria support. Why do I list all of these? Is because I think that they each have a different function. The nursing station should not be for your personal calls. It shouldn't be for your lunch. You want to keep your life private. It doesn't matter how much you love the other nurses. Your life should still be private. But at the same time, you want to respect the break room. So if you take your break because you need a break and you deserve and want to have a break, it should be in a break room, not that you're breaking with the telephone for the patient and writing notes. Figure out your day, how that's going to work amongst yourself in order to have a better day. And the cafeteria, there's plus and minuses to the cafeteria. One is that if you bring your own lunch, you know what you're eating. Two is that if you bring your own lunch, you're saving $10 to $15 a day. Three is that if you bring your own lunch, you're not spending 20 minutes of your valued lunchtime waiting for the elevator, forming the line in the cafeteria, and going up. So I have nothing against the business of the cafeteria, mind you. But I'm telling you that if you sometimes avoid it because you're having a busy day and you have your healthy packed lunch, that maybe worked in a better way. Support staff. The support staff is everyone. At any given time, I can be a support staff. If the nurse says, Dr. Johnson, are you going to 2D? Would you take this over to the staff on 2D? Dr. Johnson, I know that you often go to 2C. I have this paperwork that I want to give to Kathy or to Marie. Then that's what it is. Support staff is not in any way demeaning. It means that we're working together to support each other. The same as the fact that the clerk is there doesn't mean that he or she is anywhere less than any of us or we're above them. It's actually that we're there to support each other. So always keep in mind the institutional requirements, which sometimes are a lot: the attire, the dressing, the clothing, the nails, the shoes, everything you can imagine that are things that would keep us good. And always keep in mind, I know I say this as a joke, but I always say that we should not clean our house the day that our mother-in-law is coming to visit. You never know when she's going to show up. That's the same way it is with the organizations that, and if everybody's doing a little bit of something, then we are always prepared. Managerial responsibilities, that's a tough thing to do. It's tough when nurses get promoted from within and She used to be my girlfriend, and we used to go have mojitos or whatever it is that folks have. And then now she's my boss, and how do you set those limits? The best way to set the limits is that if your friend gets promoted, your friendship should allow you to support their promotion. That is the bottom line to it. Your friend allows you to support the promotion. And now she's on the other side. It's kind of like in Star Wars. She crossed to the dark side. She went over to the other side to promote, to help you guys, and at the same time. And I keep saying she, and there are guys in the room, so don't worry, you guys can get promoted too. So that's what you need to pay attention to, is what is it that the managerial responsibilities come. We never know it unless you're on the other side of the road. So anything on the work side that you guys think that I left out that we need to address? Did I forget anything? Because now the fun parts begin, and now I need to contain myself because of this young man that's right here in front of me, who will be nameless. Any questions about the work side? Did I leave anything out? No, okay. So this is the fun part. Why this is the fun part, and why I said that it's not evidence-based, because it's your life based on your evidence, is the fact that if you're not healthy and happy and satisfied on the outside, you can't come here and do the work in a passionate, loving way that you want to do it and be satisfied with your accomplishments. You could have had a very, very bad day, but you're looking forward to the fact that on the weekend, you're going to the beach somewhere. Of course, keep in mind that the day before you go to the beach somewhere, there's going to be a lot of deadlines. It always seems that there's a lot more work to do before you go on vacation, and there's a lot of work waiting for you when you come back. So just enjoy the in-between. So I hope that you guys are doing beaches and parties and rock climbing and candlelight dinners and dancing with your friends, because that will keep you healthy. So your personal life that impacts one way or the other, I used to be, I can't say that I'm a recovering feminist, because I probably never will be, but I used to have the belief that sometimes guys had it very easy, speaking from my standpoint, not from you guys, and I would joke and say, what sometimes we probably need is a wife. But I've come to learn with time that sometimes our colleagues have just as tough time. They have spouses who are sick, their wives may have cancer, their kids may have a disability or challenging things. So it's actually getting to the point where we see ourselves as humans doing the job rather than a gender, a race, or anything else, but that we're doing this. So marriage status has an impact. So the fact that you have a lot of extra hours and working late and trying to meet someone, work may not be that. So that's why maybe a lot of folks end up marrying folks in the workplace. Finances has an impact, whether you have dependents, and it doesn't matter if they're small children or if they're grown kids, or your daughter's getting married, or your parents are retiring, or your parents are sick. And one of the things that we sometimes overlook is that the life that our patients are living and their relatives, we live that same life. So because of where we're located, we have patients from all around the area. You guys also come from all around the area, and your loved ones, especially your senior parents or grandparents, may not be living where you are, and that can also be a contributing factor to balancing this act. Your health, culture, social support, and habits, which we'll take a look at. So professional career status, keep in mind whether it's early, if you're a bedside nurse, if you're a nurse in management, or as I said, those who are counting their days or months for retirement. Nevertheless, you're still trying to balance everything within that framework. Your personal status, whether you're single or engaged, you're planning a wedding, male or female, and planning of the wedding, let's not go there because that can be PTSD. So we won't talk about wedding planning. If you're married or living together and hoping that there will be a next step, unfortunately, there are divorce and separations that also occur in your life, and that's also balancing that. If you're a widow or a widower, and we have staff who go through all of that too. The fact that somebody doesn't tell us everything, it doesn't mean that they're not carrying the burden of their personal life. And sometimes all they may want is someone to listen, and eventually the roles will be reversed, and that would happen also. Finances, whether it's your school loans or your child who's in college school loans, and school loans seem to grow. I think they put yeast in the loan when they give it to folks, and they just flourish. But there may be ways, and I think that even here at the hospital, there may be things that you're not aware of. There may be services and the financial services that you could inquire about. In the occupational health, they may have brochures or companies that you can be referred to. Not that we're taking the burden of saying you need to go to this services. Sometimes they have fairs here on the grounds, and if we can take the time to look into these things and ways in which you can find assistance or ask your colleagues and your friends here at work other things that they have done themselves. Dependents, as I said before, and I listed pets, because there are a lot of folks that their pets are as important or more important than anything else in the world. And keep in mind that it's the same for our patients. Our patients also may be here, and we think that it's silly. Sir, you're here because you had a heart attack, and we're trying to schedule a cabbage, and you're telling me you want to leave AMA, and I have to call Dr. Johnson for capacity. And all the patient want to do is figure out if he can get a hold of a neighbor to take care of his cat. We would be doing the same thing if we had a cat. So health, your body, mind, and soul, and we're not talking about church or anything like that, but how many of you guys really drink water throughout the day? A few hands here and there. How many of you guys drink a lot of soda throughout the day? More hands than the water. How many of you guys get the sleep that you need to get when you're not at work? Nobody does. One hand up. So those are things that are actually important to stay sane and healthy, body, mind, and soul. Whether it's church, or it's temple, or a mosque, or yoga classes, doing something that satisfies your spirit would enhance your ability to cope with things at work. If you want to walk or jog before or after work, if you want to take a breather in between leaving work and getting home. No pit stops at the cafes for too much coffee and you can't sleep. No gin and tonic on the way home. But finding something relaxing, driving a different route than you usually take, listening to some easy music, something that would bring the energy down and take the noise out. Because we all leave work and we carry the noise with us. The noise of patients. I can't believe that staff member was that rude to me. I can't believe after all I've done for that patient, the family came and were so obscene and hostile towards me. I see a lot of heads shaking when I make these comments. So you kind of need a time to decompress before you get to your next destination. Keeping in mind culture and values, just looking around this room, as I said before, there's so many different people from different places that we work with. And even if everyone came from the US, a New Yorker thinks very different from a Californian, very different from someone from Nebraska, and certainly different from someone from the South. So we still have our own family values, cultural customs that we bring into the play. There are folks who don't like to be called Karen, not me, but there's another Karen around here, I'm sure, or Bill. They may want to be called Mr. Smith or Mrs. Jones. So that's what you need to pay attention to, the age difference, the cultural difference, the values that everyone brings. Social support that you have outside of work. Keep in mind that that is absolutely necessary, and not necessarily social support always at home, but someone probably outside of home with whom you can talk with about the things of work and leave talking about the fun stuff with your spouse and your partner and not burden each other just all the time with the work stuff, because it can be overloading, and your habits, which we'll talk about. So habits is a lifestyle. Who here is very satisfied with their lifestyle? 100%? 70% satisfied? 50% satisfied? There you go. She's just waving for a little bit of everything. for a little bit of everything. Our lifestyle is very important, as I said earlier, to you. And everybody has a different lifestyle. And what I want to say with lifestyle is that we should respect it. Respect our own and respect others. The eating habit, the water drinking stuff is very important. I know some folks say, I don't have time to drink water. There's water stations in all of the units. There's ice in all of the units. There are fancy cups and mugs that everyone can have. Just don't have them out of the nursing station or in your work area so we don't get in trouble with CMS or Joint Commission. But have them in your cubby, in your room, in the snack area or the break room. But drinking water, taking short walks are good habits to have, making sure that you're eating healthy. Know your body. Pay attention to the times when you drink 2 sodas and have a bag of chips and you do all these different things, how your body is sluggish and different than when you actually are eating healthy and you can function and do well. Tobacco, drugs, and alcohol, I truly hope it's a no-no, but you know, everybody have their own thing. The drugs, I'm sure it's a no-no. I'm not even looking up so that nobody looks at me. The alcohol drinking in moderation, no one is going to tell you that you should not drink, but it shouldn't be something that is consuming your day. And when you think of the impact that it would have, just look at the patients that we serve and how it has had an impact on their life. And sleep hygiene, which I know folks will say, oh, well, you know, I get out of work at 7 p.m. and by the time I get home and I deal with the kids or deal with my pets or walk the dog, I'm so tired, I don't have time, and by the time I put my head on the pillow, the alarm is going off. We all live the same life. So, have a routine schedule. By routine, meaning that if your shift changes a lot, then your routine has to change. So you cannot get out of work at 7 o'clock in the morning and think you have the whole rest of the day to have a good time, because you're going to go back to work again in the evening time. So, and moderate things as you change shift. That is important for everyone, especially if you're taking medications. I'm sure that you're not thinking about that, but if you're taking something that says bedtime may be 8 o'clock in the morning instead of 9 o'clock at night. So just pay attention to the things that you're doing in your routines in order to enhance things in your life. Avoiding alcohol and caffeine, meaning that alcohol is a depressant and caffeine is a stimulant. So if you like your caramel macchiato or you like your cappuccino with dessert, I'm very sorry, you better have dinner at 4 o'clock, because if you have a cappuccino at 8 o'clock at night after a fancy dinner, you're not going to sleep. You're going to fall asleep from exhaustion, but you're not going to maintain sleep. So it's going to start to have an impact. And the same thing with the alcohol, which will be a double whammy, because it's also a diuretic, so you're going to get up in the middle of the night to go to the bathroom. So it might have been fun while you were having a lot of pizza and beer, and then you're paying consequences at nighttime. But that's neither here or there. It's just to keep in mind. The room temperature is very important for our patients and for yourself. So if it's too hot, you can't sleep. And if it's too cold, you can't sleep, so finding your own temperature. And for those of us who have our own thermometer going on, you guys know who you are, that's also a very interesting thing. I'm sure that happens in your home. The spouse is covered and the wife is hot. So as the blankets and the sheets are moving around, the sleep disturbance. So as you approach that wonderful age that we all have to get to, and some of us are already there, figure out the best style of dressing for bedtime. We won't get into the privacy of your home, but simple things like that can cause sleep disturbance and cause irritability and anger and hostility the next day, especially if you got a call from the nursing office saying, we're short of staff, can you come in? And because some of us can't say no, you're gonna say, I'm coming, and then you're gonna say, I can't believe Tanya called me to tell me I had to come into work. But you say, oh, sure, I'll come. We'll talk about that too. So avoid napping. There are a lot of folks who like to take naps here and there, and then they cannot maintain sleep later on because they have been napping. I have been tempted to see if maybe instead of having siesta time at the hospital, we have downtime so that we're not getting the patients to nap in the daytime and then medicate at night because they can't sleep. Bedrooms indicated for only 2 uses, and you guys are, that's why I put the smile there. You can imagine what the bedroom is for. I'll tell you what it's not for. It's not for texting, it's not for FaceTime, it's not for Facebook, it's not for writing a report, it's not for reading hospital emails, it's not for making grocery lists, it's not for anything but 2 things. So who can tell me what the 2 things are for the bedroom? Only 2 things, and they both start with an S. How about that? Who said it? There you go. That's the only indication for the bedroom. So the television, the computer, the laptop, the BlackBerry, oh, you just don't understand. I have a very busy life and I have to keep in track of, you have to sleep. Your body needs to be restored. You have to relax. So use the bedroom for the 2 S's and nothing else. Turn off the TV an hour before you go to bed. If you're going to read something relaxing. If you're going to watch something, watch, I don't know, something that's going to make you laugh. Laughter is also good. All that oxygen coming into your lungs and going to your brain, those are good things. Don't watch the 11 o'clock news with who got stabbed and who got burned and who got robbed and some house got burned down, and all you're going to go to sleep is thinking, oh, Lord, all those patients are going to be a hospital center when I get there tomorrow. That's exactly what happens. You watch the news and you can count the admissions that came in, you can count what is it that we're going to have to deal with, or did you see that fire that happened 10 blocks from the hospital, 4 more patients in the hospital? Can you see that bad accident that occurred? So just watch relaxing thing. If you must, read the newspaper in the morning, watch the news. Now they give the news at 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning, go figure, I don't know. So watch it when you can handle it, process it through the day. There's nothing that happened the night before that you have to torture yourself and not have a good night's rest because you're so preoccupied with what's going on in the news. So I said the whole thing about the lights and electronic. The night lights in the hallway, how many of you guys get up, go to the bathroom, get a glass of water, turn on the lights and come back to the bed for 45 minutes and you can't go back to sleep, right? Try not to turn on the lights. I don't want you to trip. I don't want you to fall with all those fancy, cute carpets you have decorating your bathroom, and because looks are very important. So you have a cute jar, a cat, all this stuff all around the place. You want to be safe at home and at work. You don't want the patients falling at the hospital. You don't want to fall at home. But keep night lights in their bathroom. Maybe night lights that are sensor, that when you walk by, they'll turn on. Night lights that are sensitive to the light, that when the lights are out, they'll be on. So that if you have to get up to go to the bathroom or have to get up to drink water or anything, you're just not turning on the lights. We have a little gland in our brain, the pineal gland. Once you turn that on, it feels that it's daytime. Cortisol starts to move around. Everything starts to get activated. This is a time to go. And it takes a while. There are other people who can just go back to bed and lay down and go to sleep like nothing, and other folks who have to struggle with trying to go back to sleep. So keep in mind the light situation. And know yourself. You know yourselves better than anybody else knows you. So know the things that are your trigger, know the things that would impair your sleep. Know that if you go, and I'm looking at one particular staff, and have a good Jamaican meal with all the stuff that she likes to eat, then she can't sleep all night because she's full, it's spicy, and all that stuff. So keep in mind that you need to know yourself as to what is it that you're gonna eat and how you're gonna sleep. So burnout. How many of you guys have had burnout? I expect to see all the hands. We've all had burnout at some point. Even my boss is up there waving. Yeah, we've all had burnout at some point in time. The key is not that you're never gonna be burned out, because we probably are at some time. Stress, burnout, whatever we wanna call it, is whatever the term is for the season or the period. But it's actually identifying the things that cause you stress. So if you know that getting to work late causes you stress, then Get to work very early, read a magazine, a book, drink some coffee in the cafeteria, but you're already here rather than being stuck on the highway, stuck with things. If you struggle with little ones, that's a little bit part of my past life I must be happy about. Do the backpack early in the morning. I can tell you that when mine were little, there was this long list on the kitchen door going to the garage. Do you have your lunch bag, your backpack, your music instrument, your PE clothing, your homework, the keys to get back in the house when the school bus drops you off? Do you have an umbrella, your jacket, whatever? There'll be no mama, I forgot this. Because I don't live as close as when we came from California. I lived 15 minutes away, that's the difference. So you want to keep those things organized. And at the beginning, the kids are tough on you and they don't want to deal with all of that. If you have a spouse or a partner, you may also have to deal with that for those of you who have spousal partners. And at least mine is always asking me for if I've seen his yellow tie. And I'm like, I don't wear ties. How would I know where your yellow tie is? But those things happen in the household also. So you have to figure out ways, whoever is managing all those things, to balance it best for you. So burnout comes from lack of sleep. And you'll see that when our patients come in and they talk about not being able to sleep 2 days after they've slept, we think that they're cured because they're restored. So we're like, oh, this patient is fine, Dr. Johnson. Can you clear them for them to go home? The patient is just restored. They may not be cured from whatever is causing their distress, but just their sleep being restored restores their energy. It makes us irritable. Of course, at any given time, people will say you're borderline or you're bipolar, but you're not. You just labile because you're irritable, have not slept and you're cranky. That's okay. We can work on that. You're very intolerant. There are days that anything can happen on the unit or in the hospital, and you are cool as a cucumber. And there are other days someone just has to look at you the wrong way. They haven't even said a word. And you see, you guys are all laughing because it's true. And your tolerance is zero tolerance. It's like, don't even look at me today because I'm not in a good mood. Short temper, short, long temper, whatever temper you have, it also gets affected when you're burned out. There are things where someone say, oh, you know, can you work 2 more hours because this is happening? Or I think yesterday there was a rapid response and they were like, oh, I think I may have to work 2 more hours. And there are days when you're okay, and there are other days where you have childcare, other things to take care of, and you can't think of staying extra to do anything. So somatic symptoms, your head hurts, you're dizzy, your stomach hurts. There are people who get anxious and they spend a lot of time going to the bathroom, number 1 or number 2, but they're going to the bathroom because of anxiety and stress. You have a great weekend, Friday, Saturday, Sunday night. You're coming to work on Monday, all of a sudden you can't sleep the night before you have to come to work. And it's not like you don't like your job or you don't like what you do. Sometimes our jobs are not in our control. And that's what working in the healthcare system is. We all yearn to have everything controlled, and we can't. So I often laugh when people say, I can't believe I came back and there are all these patients here. And I often ask myself, so where do you think you work? What else are we going to have but patients? You know, this isn't a car wash or the shopping mall or Starbucks or any such thing. You are going to come here and there are going to be patients. Yeah, there are more patients than usual, or you think the patient is difficult. There really isn't any difficult patient. The patients are difficult according to our tolerance. The days when the most difficult patient, oh, I don't know how you could deal with Mr. Smith today. Well, it's because you weren't stressed out today dealing with Mr. Smith. But if you have to be out of work by 7:10, because you have to pick up your loved one by 7:45 and you know what the traffic in the district is, then you're going to be very intolerant if at 6:30, Mr. Smith's blood pressure drops. Or he starts to scream and says, I want to leave, I want to go home. You guys are keeping me captive here. I don't know why I'm in the hospital. You are all imposters. I shouldn't be here. So those are things that you have to keep in mind. But always keep in mind that we work in a hospital. And what we're going to have is patients, varied degrees of complication, but that's what we're dealing with. So your somatic symptoms, also learn to identify them. Sometimes you may think that it's all stress, and you may want to ask yourself, when was the last time you checked your glasses? We all have healthcare insurance. Don't go to the doctor. I'm not looking at anybody. Don't go to the dentist. Haven't changed the glasses in 4 years, and the last time it was at a lens crafters. It wasn't even because you saw an ophthalmologist. Nothing. But you have a Mercedes-Benz, and that car is clean, cute, and up to date. But we are on the wayside. Those are things that come to play. Poor performance, we get floppy, we forget things. Oh, it's the Pixis fault. Oh, that patient didn't do this, or the doctor didn't do that, or in the end, if we're stressed and burned out, it will affect our performance. And we do not want that because we don't want it to affect patient care. And we don't want it to affect yourself. So those are things that you pay attention to. Anxiety and depression, you see that I left that at the bottom because that can be, unfortunately, the consequence that occurs. So it's not like you're anxious because you have a date with somebody cute and you want to make sure you look cute. That's a fun anxiety. Or it's not like you're depressed because you have to write that check to the IRS on the 15th of April. But that depression only lasts a day or two. But when it actually starts to impact your life, your functioning, your ability to have the passion for your work, it impacts your relationship with your mate or with your kids, then you want to pay attention that these may no longer be simply symptoms of anxiety or depression, but they actually are the disorder that you could be experiencing. So folks say, well, she came to work every day. I never realized that she was this close to being so sick or she had to take a leave or anything, is that they look that way. But on the inside, the performance and the feelings may not be there. If you think of the times when you're sleep deprived and you don't perform good in a test, or anxiety, I have one that you can think of. So anxiety affects the norepinephrine, and norepinephrine affects the frontal lobe, and frontal lobes affects the memory, right? So think of the times when you were so stressed taking an exam in nursing school or for one of these reaccreditations or recertification, and during the test, you couldn't remember the answers. You guys get together after the test in the cafeteria, and you're going over the answers like, oh my God, I can't believe that was that. I knew that was the answer. It's because at the time you were so stressed and anxious that the frontal lobe was blocked. That's a different type. But imagine if you were in that state in a perpetual way, or for 2, 3, 4 weeks at a time. Communication. Find someone who's your mentor, a friend, or a supporter within the institution. If the stress is something that's work-related, address it before it starts to impact your life and patient care. So burnout is something that you want to be looking at. Time management. How many of you guys are good at managing your time? That's okay. She's managing her time very well. She has to get back to the next slide. So time management is something that sometimes we're good at and other times we're not that good at. And again, something that may not be in your control. So being organized at home and at work, especially during those times that you know that there are higher probabilities of disaster than other times, so that you can be prepared. Good use of your social support. We are sometimes quite bad at that, and I'm not sure if it's just a healthcare thing, it's a female thing, or it's a thing. But you're walking with a lot of bags coming out of your car here in the blue or the yellow parking lot, and someone says, "Can I help you?" And you say, "Oh no, I got this." Why? Someone says, "Can I help you?" You say, "Sure, I hope it doesn't take you out of the way, but I'm going to the East Building. How far can you go?" That's my new attitude. Don't offer me help if you're not willing to do it, because I'm going to take the help from you. Because you have to learn that. We don't want to be the weakest link. We don't want to look as if you're depending on anyone. You want to look as Superwoman and Superman. And if someone offers you help, take the help when the support is being given. Backup plan for emergencies. I know that I've said that quite a bit. Packing a healthy lunch and dinner. For those of you who have kids, and I'm not trying to have any impact on your parenting style, that is a good time. Making the lunches in the morning or fixing the dinners in the evening is a good time to really know what's going on in their lives. And even if they're sitting talking to their friends and doing other things, you keep them close by and you're just listening to everything that's happening. You are the parent who volunteers to drive them to the different activities, and my kids think, oh, she's just listening to her salsa. I know everything they're talking back there. And that way you are informed, you're connected with your kids, and you decrease the guilt, because there's a lot of guilt with all the hours that you spent at work thinking about if you were at home, and then when you're at home, you're thinking of what you're going to be doing when you're at work, and you're not satisfied at either places. Personal devices, I have my bias with that, but we need them. Try to minimize the use of personal devices. At work, definitely no driving and texting. Keep to a minimum the things that are going to be distracted to you. So if that sweet sister-in-law is calling you and you see the number, you turn it off, you put it back in your pocket, because you know that whatever the conversation is going to lead you to be anxious and angry. So then you don't take the call. Just as simple as that. You don't take the call because you know that the sister-in-law is calling to tell you something about your brother you don't want to know, or about your husband or whatever. So you leave that out of the workplace to decrease your stress. It may sound like simple things that I've been saying for the last 50 minutes, but if you add all of them together at any given time, those are the things that can tip the bucket. Protect your time and space. So if you are at lunch, you are at lunch. But if you are at lunch and you're on the unit, keep in mind how the patient's relatives will feel. Even though they know you need to have lunch, their relative is more important than your lunch. So if you're having lunch and laughing and carrying on and the whole thing, perception can kill us. Makes us or breaks us. So if the perception is that you guys are all having a good time in the lunchroom while my father is over there in the bed not doing well, that's not going to be pretty. So have your lunch, enjoy your time, find a safe place, and take care of your protected time, keeping in mind that we're all here to cover each other and assist each other in the delivery. In the end, it's you and taking care of your job. So communication with family, with your coworkers, with your managers. I'm not saying that you have to tell your managers the personal details in your life, but I'm also telling the managers to remember that once upon a time, you too were nurses on the unit doing exactly what folks are doing. So if we want the younger nurses to be happy with their jobs and to continue in this, we all have to collaborate, but communicate the needs. Sometimes your managers may figure out later on the stress that you were enduring, and they could have been more supportive, but they did not know. So you have to make use of that. Rest and relaxation and good use of your breaks. Sleep and hydration, keep in mind that you must do that. Not sleeping on the job, though. So don't leave this thing saying that Dr. Johnson said that you guys can go have nap times and sleep and the whole thing on the unit. So sleeping at home, healthy eating, keep fun in your life. If you like to dance, if you want to walk, yoga, workout, keep the fun going and keep your life well-spirited so that you can enjoy what you do. Patients can sense that. Patients can sense the good nurse or the nurse who's stressed out, and we can be honest with them. Sometimes I'm doing rounds and the patients say, how are you doing today, Dr. Johnson? I said, well, not that great, but let me tell you, it's not your fault. But I was honest, I'm not doing that great. I still have 7 other patients to see, or I have to pick up my girls from dance, or whatever it is that we all have to do. But you have to be honest with yourself, be kind and respectful with each other. Avoid tobacco and drugs, and you see that I've already changed. The other one said avoid everything, and then here I said alcohol in moderation, cutting you a little slack. So this is for you guys. Always remember the reason why you chose to become a nurse. Above all things, be true to yourself. Nurture the passion that allows you to come every day here and do the very difficult job that you do. And treasure yourself. Remember what the flight attendant tells us when we're flying. If there's no oxygen, put the mask on yourself first and then others who depend on you. Because if you have no oxygen and you pass out, there's no one there to help the rest. So treasure yourself, your family, and your loved ones, because in the end, that's where the true joy is. And if you guys are happy and healthy and satisfied, you're going to come here and deliver good care for the patients whom we serve. So thank you very much in whichever language you need it. So do you guys have any questions? No questions. I hope that is because you got everything, right? There really isn't a lecture for an educational purpose. It's just a timeout that we've been given today so that you can take another look at the way you take care of things, the way you lived your life, the way that you take care of yourself so that you can continue to do the job. And as I said at the beginning, thank you so much for all the work that you do here at Hospital Center. Have a good day.
Just a moment, please. Just a moment. Don't leave yet.
Oh.
Just a moment.
That's why Kathy asked me what were my favorite flowers.
Dr. Johnson, I'd like to say that I thoroughly enjoyed your presentation. It was very enlightening and stimulating. So on behalf of Sue, Tanya, and the Nurses Week Committee, we would like to just say thank you. Thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedule to share your wisdom and knowledge with us and let us know just how important it is to have a work-life balance.
That's so sweet. Thank you so much. Thank you very much.